Hi, this is Matt Hug with Nonprofit.Courses and the Nonprofit Career Network, a chapter of Great Careers. Today we have Sonia Saleh, who's going to talk to us about using fundraising methods to find your next job. It's actually a very interesting concept, and she makes it a lot of fun. So let's get started. Today, we have Sonia Saleh, who is a nonprofit consultant extraordinaire and who has a great title to her business. In fact, Sonia, what is the title of your business?
Uplifting Nonprofits.
I love it. Uplifting Nonprofits. And Sonia, I have personally found, is probably one of the most uplifting people I know. This looks to be a really good session with somebody who has a lot of energy and really, Sonia, no pressure.
Yeah, right. None at all. Yeah.
But Sonia, maybe a little background on yourself before we get started.
Sure. So you're taking away my whole talk, Matt, but that's okay. No, it's fine. It's fine. So I had a career in hospitality, hotel sales for marketing for over 20 years. And while I was there, I served on boards because I was an ideal person to serve on boards. I worked in sales, so, money isn't an issue. And I had connections, right? Because I'm in sales and marketing. And when I got on a board and I was honored and delighted, this was quite a while ago. I was so excited to be asked to be on a board. And I thought, wow, this is big stuff, right? So I got on the board and they said, help with this committee and that committee. And I did all that. And then they said, go fundraise. And I said, no problem. I do sales and marketing. I talk about money all day. And I actually froze. I couldn't ask for $100. So this is back when $100 is like $1,000 today.
Yeah.
So I couldn't ask for $100. And I was very frustrated and annoyed with myself because I pride myself on being a salesperson extraordinaire. So I had to go through a learning and figure out what I needed to know to be able to ask for donations without anything attached, right? So when you ask for sponsorship, you get your name placed, or you get advertising space, or when you do an a-thon, you get a t-shirt, or you're going to get your pen on something, right? This was just to ask for asking. And so I went through my trials and tribulations, and I got really good at it. And I recognized that later that I did not want to be in hospitality anymore. The industry had shifted and I wanted to go save the world. So to save the world, I came to the nonprofit sector. I mean, where else would you go to save the world, right? So I came to the nonprofit sector, and that's over 10 years ago. And I am now a consultant for boards and executive directors on how to ask.
That's great. And I'll tell you, that little story you tell in the beginning is something that so many people miss, is the difference between sales and fundraising. So we can talk more about that as we move forward here. But that's great to know what your background is and the fact that you made that transition from the for-profit sector into the nonprofit sector. So we've talked a bit about what those kind of transitions are all about. I mean, how you kind of have a paradigm about this. Tell us, like, what are you thinking?
The transition from one sector to another is always interesting, right? Because there are differences. Even if you're in the nonprofit sector and you go from animal welfare to literacy to peace initiatives to economics, they're all different. And so there is a transition that has to happen. And actually, that's part of what I wanted to talk about today. So that's great. And I just have a question for those that are on. Have you been in the nonprofit world for a while? Or are you new to it? Or
Well, let's see. I know that a couple of people have been in the nonprofit sector. If you guys want to either put it in chat or just speak up, go ahead.
Yeah, just speak up.
This is Colleen. It's over 30 years.
In the nonprofit world.
Yes, 22 of them at a community foundation. So we were the ones giving the money rather than asking for it. I mean, we asked individuals for companies, but I didn't have to write a grant to get money.
Okay, and so great. I'm glad we're able to have this interaction here. So are you here today to further your knowledge in?
I am transitioning from the foundation. I left it last year.
Okay.
I have always wanted to do consulting, so I'm dipping my toe into that. I've got a couple of clients, although they're not nonprofit. One is a nonprofit consultant, and still leaving myself open to roles. I was the CEO, but I really like the operations and making things run smoothly. Project management and things like that, and that's why I'm here. I just, anytime that you take something that you do and turn it into how to look for jobs, I think that's fascinating. I listened to a guy that is a project manager, and he said project manager job search. So I was just interested in the concept of using your skills to look for jobs, and I'm going to assume I can use it to look for clients too. So thank you.
Yes, you can actually very easily. Go ahead. Who's next?
Anybody else?
Georgina, I think.
Well, I actually worked for a number of years in profit organizations, and that's my paid kind of position. But outside of that, I'm a Rotarian with
Me
Rotary
too.
International. Oh,
Me
are you?
too. Yes.
Fantastic.
I'm going to be go ahead.
Yeah, for years, that's, have you ever heard of the Ambassadorial Scholarship?
No, I have not.
Okay. They used to have a program that was called the Ambassadorial Scholarship, that kids would get $25,000 to go and study anywhere in the world that they wanted to study. And at the time I was working with the university doing career placements and things. And so the kids started asking me where they could get money to go and study and get their masters. So I started applying some of my skills to helping them fill out their applications. And next thing you know, we won 10 scholarships every year. We were winning a scholarship. Our student kept winning. So I thought, well, hey, if I could take those kind of skills and apply them somehow to my job search. And then I saw this session was going on. And I thought, I'm very interested in this.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And Scott, where are you in this?
Well, Scott might be
somewhere else. Totally. Somewhere else. Okay. So, right. So it's interesting because for many people, transitioning is a frightening thing, right? You don't have enough knowledge, you don't know the right people, you don't have the skills, et cetera, et cetera. And in truth, you already do. You know more than you realize you do. So let me tell you that. And the transition is an interesting thing, because when I work with executive directors and board members on how to ask, they also have to transition their thinking and their way of doing things. So transition is in every area. And let me give you two acronyms that I use when working with boards and executive directors to help them, that are going to, I think, benefit you. So the first acronym is ABC. ABC. It's as simple as 1, 2, 3. I don't know if you remember that song by Michael Jackson, and I can't sing. But anyway, so the first acronym is ABC. And in the nonprofit, where in the fundraising, is A stands for access. So who do they have access to that can give donations? B stands for belief. Do those people have belief in their organization? And C is, do they have the capacity to donate? And that could be a capacity of $10 or $1 million, right? So that's an ABC. How does that apply to you? A is, who do you have access to that can connect you to where you want to go? So that could be a colleague's spouse, a colleague's relative, that could be your own relative, that could be a mentor, that could be your neighbor, that could be somebody on LinkedIn, right? So who do you have access to that is in the type of organization you'd want to be in? So if you just think about that for a moment and put down 5 names, just 5 names, who you have access to. So if you want access to Oprah or Richard Branson and you don't know anybody that can get you there, you don't have access to Oprah or Richard Branson. But if you want to work in animal welfare or you want to do consulting or whatever, who's doing that you have access to, that you can get an introduction to? So if you just write down a few names right now, that's very helpful. Because sometimes we don't think about that. We just like go on job searches, right? And start looking there, as opposed to thinking, who do we know that can connect us?
LinkedIn is a great access point because you've had contact with people all the time.
Right.
Through LinkedIn. They may not be your closest friends, but at least that you have something in common. There's a reason why you link.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Exactly. So the second letter is B for belief. And do they have belief in the organization? The question is, who do you have that has belief in you and what you're doing? And that's really important because you're going to hit roadblocks and speed bumps along this journey, and you want to know you have support. And that support could be somebody who lives with you or somebody who doesn't live with you, right? And it's not your cat or dog. That's not what I'm talking about. All right, so let's be clear on that. So I'd like you to think of 3 people who you know that you get a no or you get a rejection, that you can go to them and they'll say, that's okay, I still believe in you and I support what you're doing. And not people who are going to say, oh, why do you want to do that? You're doing fine where you are. Why do you want to change? Don't bother changing. Stay where you are. Do that as volunteer work. Like Rotary, it's volunteer work, right? So you want to know 3 people who have belief in you because that's your support. And you need support through transition, no matter what transition you're going through. If it's a medical transition, you need support. If it's a job transition, you need support. So you need 3 people. So A, access, B, belief, and now C, capacity. So who has, this is different, who has the capacity to help you? So who has the capacity to help you take the steps, get you through the steps? So A is access, right? So let's clarify. You have access to me and I can get you to Matt, right? But who's going to help you in the capacity to work with Matt? I can just make the introduction, but who's got the capacity to help you there, to help you find out? Who's got the capacity to help you on your process? Very different. It's your process. It's taking you through process. This is a person who has a connection, but not a person who necessarily has the process. Does that make sense? I see Georgina looking at me like that, which is good. I love feedback, so I love that. Does that make sense, or did I lose you?
It's just the capacity part that I'm still a little confused on. The A and B was fine.
C, capacity. Okay.
Yeah.
So who can help you through the steps of saying, you might think of this as a search firm. Go ahead, Matt.
Maybe I can. So yesterday
Clarify.
I got a note from a former student who's taking a doctorate who needed connections to one nonprofit. I gave her 3 or 4 to do a project with. And so I had the capacity to help her make that connection, to network with her. Is that what you're talking about?
That is part of it, but that's more the access. The capacity is where you would have helped her and said, when you reach out to Sonia, these are the steps you want to know. This is what you want to do. Or if you're wanting to work in animal welfare, I keep using animal welfare today, I don't know why, but if you want to work in animal welfare, these are the things that are done in animal welfare. These are the organizations. These are the places. It's the steps. It's to help you.
It's kind of the background research almost to give you the context.
Yes, there you go. Context, capacity, context. Yeah. Does that help?
Yes. Yes.
Does that help? Okay, great. So that's ABC. That's a pretty easy one. But again, for nonprofits, it's a little, different on finding their donors. So you're looking with ABC who you want to apply to, where you want to go. That's what ABC is. So the next acronym I use, and I spend forever on this acronym, is MKA. That's not as easy as ABC, is it? MKA. So what does that stand for? Mindset, knowledge, and action. With the fundraising and in the nonprofit, they need to have the mindset to ask. And many people don't have a mindset. As I didn't, when I was telling you my story, I didn't have the mindset to be able to ask. So it's about aligning your mindset to match what you're doing. Because there are many people out there who are going to sway you one way or the other. And you need to have your mindset. You need to know what type of organizations or clients you want. Do you want them to be from large organizations or foundations? Do you want them to be small? Do you want them to be community? Do you want them to be international? What sector, right? That's part of your mindset. The other part of your mindset is, so you've decided on animal welfare. I'm back to that again. But the position you want in animal welfare is not available. Do you then take a position in literacy that is parallel to what you want to get your foot in the door, or do you not? That's your mindset. You need to decide that. So you need to align your mindset with this. The other thing is, maybe there is a position in animal welfare, but it's not the position you want. Are you willing to take that other position to get your foot in the door? That's your mindset. Where are your boundaries? Where are your desires? And aligning them. That's so important. The other thing is your mindset on asking, which is the same for the board and executive directors, except for your ask is a little different. You're asking for information. You're asking for connections. And you're asking people who may or may not be in your circle, and you may be asking and stepping out of your comfort zone. Right? So there you need the mindset to be able to step out of the comfort zone. And that's where you go back to your B people who support you and say, go for it. Go for it. Because it holds you back. If you don't ask, you're not going forward. If you're not asking for the client, if you're not asking for the position, you're held back. And that's where your mindset comes in. You need
if you don't ask, you've already said no for them.
Correct. Exactly. So your mindset is so important. And you may have preconceived ideas about a place or what they're going to say to you. And that's stories. That's not mindset. That's stories. And you need to know that difference. And when your mindset comes in is you're interviewing or the client says no to you, and no you are going to hear a lot. We all hear no's in our life. Is do you have the mindset to handle that? And here's what I suggest. When you get the no, recognize it's not about you. It has nothing to do with you. It's about them. So if you're applying for a position that requires a master's degree and 5 years experience in fundraising, and you may have the master's or 5 years, but you don't have both, and you apply anyway, which I highly recommend you do. You apply anyway, and they tell you no, you don't have the experience or you don't have the degree. You need to understand that their no is based on this blinding thing they have, that this is the criteria they need. That is on them. That is not on you. Because maybe you don't have something, but you have the potential and you would soar and take them higher than somebody who has that, but they can't see that. So it's their story. Did that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Especially when you put it in that context about their mindset versus your mindset and how you need to move forward with things.
Exactly.
Way.
Exactly.
And now when you say story, maybe unpack that a little bit. What do you mean by story?
So I think we all have stories or presumptions about what others are thinking and why they're acting the way they're acting. We already, so, maybe there's a reason, like this organization, the person told them this is what I need, and that's what they think, but they may need something else, but they're going by that. So it's a story. Right. But we're saying, oh, I didn't have the qualifications. I'm not the right person. I'm not good enough. I need to go do more of this. I need to do more of that. And then we're creating a story based on them.
Right. And we really have no basis of facts for that story. We're just trying to explain it to ourselves somehow, which is potentially totally fictional.
So. Exactly. So it is a story because we don't know. We don't know. And sometimes when somebody says no, it could be simply that they've got too much going on right now. They don't answer your requests, for the interview, or you apply and you don't hear back, and you're like, oh, they didn't reply back because I'm not qualified, or I'm not ready, or I'm not.
Or they're a bad person.
Right. So, but maybe they've got so many applications. Maybe they've hired somebody. Maybe they've got a personal scenario going on. Maybe they're going through divorce or something. You don't know why you're not hearing, but we start with stories in our head about all these things. So you need the mindset to handle no's, because they come. They come. And even when you get in a position or you get a client, they tell you no for certain things. So you need to recognize that most no's have nothing to do with you. Nothing to do with you. Mindset.
That's great. So what about knowledge?
So let's get to knowledge. That's great. So for fundraising, they need to know their organization. Mm-hmm. They need to know about the donor. And they need to know the process of how to ask, right? So that's for fundraising. But for you, knowledge is everywhere. There's the Nonprofit.Courses, free knowledge. There's this organization, and I'm in both. How exciting. So that's really good. That means it's quality. It's quality. No, but there is a lot of information out there that is free and available. And there's one other resource I highly recommend, and it's this. Can you see this? Joan Gary's Guide to Nonprofit Leadership.
I just watched her video a couple weeks ago. Wow.
She is awesome.
And the subtitle there, because nonprofits are messy.
Yes, exactly. And why I recommend this is because she was in media and moved to nonprofits. So she went from the private sector to the nonprofit sector. Mm-hmm. And this book can apply to staff, it can apply to leadership, it can apply to programs, it can apply to fundraising. It's a great book. She's got a good sense of humor, right, Lynn? Isn't she? She's got a good sense of humor. She brings in lots of stories. So that I recommend. Knowledge also is when you get to meet people that you have access to or that you're interviewing with, ask them, what are their resources? Where do they go? So that would give you a list of things that, blogs to look at, courses to take, that, the more you compile and then you see the similarities, because there's so much knowledge out there, so much, right? But the more you can narrow it down, the better it is for you.
Yeah.
Really is in some ways, because you can go off to left field. Well, oh my God, this says to do this, and then that one says to do that. What do I do, right? So it's good to have that, but then you need to, because you can go every which way.
Well,
So,
I think that has a lot to do with being directed about what you want.
exactly.
And if you say you want to be a fundraiser, take that as an example, that's our world, and then you want to say, I want to be a planned giving fundraiser. Well, now you've scaled down and narrowed that
Exactly.
down. And then you say, I want to be a specialist on charitable gift annuities. Now you've really taken that down another step.
Exactly.
And so you can funnel that down to whatever your target is in terms of what your job is you're seeking.
Correct. Yeah, that makes sense.
So
I'm so glad they're on here, because I can see their reaction. I'm sorry. What did you say, Matt? I apologize.
To get beyond being overwhelmed.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
But there is a lot of knowledge, and I really recommend Joan Gary, and I think it will help you no matter what you're doing, because she talks about transition. She talks a lot about transition. So very beneficial and humorous. So that's your knowledge. Now I want to give you actually let me get to A, which is action. And it's really imperfect action. So if you think of an athlete, who are on major teams or gone to the Olympics, they have coaches and they train every day, hours and hours and weeks and months. And yet they still miss the mark, right? They don't always hit the mark. So they're taking action, and it's imperfect action. So for you, me, when we need to feel with our mindset to take action and recognize that we may fall or we may fail, but that's okay. We do it again and we do it again. So you keep applying, you keep moving forward with your action. Go ahead.
And chances are the people who are seeing your action don't see the foibles, the failures, right? My wife plays in community bands, and she says, yeah, people make mistakes on the stage, the audience never knows.
That's right.
It's just part of the whole thing. And it makes a big difference.
It does. It really does. So you need to take the action. Don't hold yourself back, because also you want to go and step beyond your comfort zone. You need to take action to do that. You can have all the knowledge, read Joan's book, go take Matt's courses, be here, have all that. But if you don't do anything, you're just sitting. And you're sitting like in the nonprofit when they don't go out and ask for money. They're just like, whatever comes to them, comes to them. So they're settling. And if you're doing the same thing with your career and your life, you're settling. Take action. It's going to be imperfect. Understand that, know it. Also know, again, with the mindset that you're going to get no's. I mean, these are things to know and be okay. It's like, that's where your B people come in to help keep you supported, right? Keep you going.
Well,
you need that.
So I think of it like being an order taker at McDonald's, right? You don't want to be an order taker.
Right.
You don't want people to come up and you're saying, well, you want fries with that, right? You want a job with that?
Right, exactly.
No, you want to be proactive, but not let that perfection get in your way of what you're doing. Just go start doing.
Exactly. So let me give you an example of all of this from a person who reached out to me on LinkedIn. I did not know him. His name is James, and he reached out to me on LinkedIn and said, I'm interested in fundraising. I see you're an expert, very cleverly written, in fundraising, and I'd love to have a conversation with you. Now, that was stepping beyond. He wasn't introduced to me. I didn't know anybody who knew him. Still don't know anybody who knows James. And he went out and took action, right? So he went and took action and to reach out. Now, I had the option, this is where the stories come in, to tell him, no, I don't know you. I'm not going to answer. I don't know who you are. Why am I going to answer you? I could have just not answered, period. But instead I said yes, right? Because he took the action. Now, James actually has found a job in fundraising, which I'm really happy about, but we had conversation. And for him to do that is a mindset that I'm going to go for what I want. I'm going to do what I need to do to get what I want. And he also took action. He had belief, he had support, and his access came through LinkedIn, right? Which is what Matt said at the beginning. So, you know, James also did something which I'm sure you are doing. I'm just assuming because you've seen people of integrity, is that you're writing thank yous, sending your emails on that. The other thing I will add when you do that is if you've spoken, let's say you've spoken to me like James did. 3 months later, he sends me a short email saying, thank you for the time again, right? He sent me one right afterwards, but thank you for the time again. I have found a job or I have not found a job, but your words resonated with me. And that's like, oh, so I'm not left out in the dust. I spent this time with James and now what happened? Where did James go? What happened? So you see that follow-up, how that's important, right? It's just a little extra there that you're doing that most will not do. Most will not. So that's what I have for you today. ABC, MKA. I know that none of it was probably earth-shattering and it didn't give you the secret key to get what you want, but hopefully it opened your pathways a little more because roadblocks and speed bumps happen on the journey and you need to be able to maneuver them. And in reality, even though I didn't give you the key, you have the key. You are the magic. You are the magic that makes it happen. You and your unique self is what makes it all happen. And it's what we need. So I'm glad you're part of this sector and that you're going to be spreading your magic too. And there I am, done. So
well, thank you. This is really great. I mean, really, there's so many things in our fundraising world and our nonprofit world that apply to job searches. You really brought up some important points in this, especially, well, I mean, I don't know, especially any of them. And the action makes a big difference. I'm sure James is going to be very successful because he was willing to take action and he had a mindset to do it. But you know, it's interesting. My own observation is that if you come from a place where you interact with people, these things might be like, oh yeah. But if you come from a kind of world or a job type, I think of a chemist, I think of accountants, people like that who don't often interact with the public on a regular basis. There's challenges to what you present here. How do you get through some of those challenges? How do you decide that you are going to have that mindset? You know, you're at a lab bench all day, or you're sitting at your desk playing with numbers. How's that work?
That's again where you go to your B's, your beliefs, and your people who believe in you and support you. Because, and then the knowledge, right? So you need the belief and you need the knowledge, and that is your mindset combined. Because you don't know, right? And if you're not a people person, all of a sudden you need to be a people person, right? And how do you do that? And that's where you get your knowledge, and that's where you reach out. You take action for people who are already doing it, like James did. He reached out to find people who are already doing it and asking them to have a conversation, not for a job, a conversation. So you learn, so you step out, and you develop your mindset by who you surround yourself with.
Okay, good.
You really
so
do.
So the networking, the connections out there are a major part of this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But you also, it's who you have around you. So if you have people around you who are saying, stay where you are, don't bother with this, you're doing great. That's not going to give you your mindset.
Yeah.
It's really not. It's just going to drag you down. And we have people like that in our lives who are dear to us, who maybe we live with, right? So we have people like that. But if that's the case, you need to find those that are not.
Well, and it's interesting you say that, because I think those people aren't doing it because, well, maybe they are doing it because they want to be mean, right?
No, I don't think so.
They're doing it to protect you.
Right.
They're doing it because they care about you, because they don't want to see something bad happen. And so they apply their own caution
Exactly.
to your situation.
Exactly. So perfect example was my mother. You can do anything. You can be anything you want, but don't upset the apple cart. And you need this set salary, and you need the this, and you need the that. And so she meant well the whole time, but it was a mixed message I was getting, right? I can do anything, but you don't want to upset the apple. And so we have people like that in our lives. And that's why it's important to have people who support you throughout in a different way, right? Who cheerleaders.
She had her own issues that caused her to be that way.
Absolutely.
And so that, I've actually seen that in people who surround me.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so then you find others, which is, it's not that they're bad people, and I'm not saying that at all. They
might care a lot about you.
Right, exactly. But then you need those people who are like, yeah, go for it. You need cheerleaders.
Yeah. That's huge. That makes a big difference.
It does. It really does.
I think a lot of times, Matt, if I could interrupt,
please,
that person that's not supportive of you, that has those stories and messages, is yourself. And that's the one person you better get on board with you, is though your internal thoughts that you have against doing anything outside your comfort zone. So that would just be, I would throw that in there, that it isn't always outside people. Sometimes it's the thoughts in your own head.
Well, and Colleen, my observation is a lot of us, myself sometimes included, I see this in others, who would rather put up with a bad situation they know than a great situation which is unknown. Correct.
It's, what is it? It's better to have the devil you know than the one you don't know, whatever that expression is. And I'm like, no, give me the new one. I want to see, because that new one could be so much better. But I don't know if I stay. And that was always the case with employees. Like, no, better you keep them. And I was like, no, they need to go. They need to find their joy and their happiness elsewhere. And I need somebody who wants to be here with their joy, right? Yeah. So it is the internal, and that's where mindset again. So read books that keep you positive, uplifting nonprofit. So I'm all about the positive. It's something to keep on, right? Or take courses in it. That's knowledge also, in keeping yourself positive.
Now, how about capacity and context a little more? So where was James on that? Where do you think that came into things?
So here's what's interesting. When James and he said, how do you think I should do this?
Okay.
What steps do you think I need to take to get a position in fundraising?
Now, was he young, old? Was he coming from outside the sector?
He was outside the sector, who had volunteered.
Okay.
And he was in his 30s.
All right.
And so, but he was like, what steps do you recommend I take? And then he also asked what resources, which is what I told you. So what steps do I need to take? Do I just call up anybody at random, or do I do, research in areas that I just want? What do you recommend? So it was, again, what are the steps? What's the path?
Right. And you were able to give him that context, that capacity to do that.
I was one of a few, I'm sure. Yes. Yeah.
No, it was all you, Sonia, I'm sure.
Absolutely. It was all me. That's right. I mean, after all, I am the big picture here. I see that. So it is all me.
Of course.
Yeah. So any questions, Colleen, Georgina? Sorry, it's a small screen here. Any questions?
No,
Any
I would
thoughts?
just say, until I became crystal clear of what I wanted to do, I was just jumping all around. And so when you talked about, would you take a position in an organization that wasn't the position you wanted? And I also thought about, would you take a position, the perfect position in a cause that you weren't really aligned to? So that's the other thing. And until I said, I want operations. That's all I want to do. I don't want to be a CEO. I am not going to be a fundraiser. I don't want to. I want to do operations. That's it. I excel at making things run smoothly for the other people that do all that other important stuff. And until I did that, I was applying for things that weren't that. And then I felt worse when I got rejected. So I think that mindset, if you don't want to feel bad, then stop applying for things that aren't giving you joy, as you just brought up.
That's a good point you brought out, is applying for things that you think will give you joy, right?
Yep. And so, I kept trying to fit in. Oh, I could do that. I could, but I didn't want to. And for who knows what reasons I got rejected.
Right. You don't know the story.
To me, it was because it was me. But when I apply for something that I know I'm perfect for and they don't choose me, I'm like, that's fine. But that's your problem. That's your loss.
Well, there's another good reason to do that too, is that if you are very specific about what you want, you will start seeing more of that.
Correct.
Oh my God, yes, you are so right.
There's a term
like
for that.
Buy a car and all of a sudden you see all the Kias, or you see yes, because it clears the path for you to focus. I got rejected for a position. It was a contract position for a brand new family foundation in the Chicago area. It was going to be remote, but I made it to the top 25 out of 150 applications. And so that's what I did, exactly what I did, Sonia. I celebrated the fact that I made it to the top 25. And then I'm like, even though it would have been operational, it wasn't, obviously, for some whatever reason, it wasn't right for me.
Exactly.
Well, it's the same reason why you see your car model out there more than others. And I think the brain scientists call this a reticular activation.
That's it. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
R something.
Yeah. Right. RAS or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I want to say, Colleen, for those who don't know, sometimes they need to take that path of trying different things. Right?
Yep.
Right. And they need to go on that explore. And that's gaining their knowledge, right? And helping their mindset all at the same. But if they're taking the action, I think that's so important, because if you're not taking the action, you're never going to know what you want, right?
Because I heard that before, be crystal clear. But in my mind, it was, now I'm limiting myself.
Right. Yes, I understand that.
I had to go through that step. And because I like process improvement, I'm like, okay, well, this is not working. And so I process improved myself and said, okay, I'm going to try XYZ for 3 or 4 months, whatever. And so that's, and who knows, I might change my mind in 3 or 4 months.
Exactly.
And that's okay, because that's how you improve what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
I absolutely agree. I jump on calls with Pat Romboletti, she wrote a book called Bulletproof Your Career, and she does a Q&A every Thursday night. And that's her message. If it's not working, one, she does say be crystal clear, but if something's not working, try something else. And she's all about continuing to network, even after you have your quote dream job.
Absolutely.
Because the facts of the matter are, it especially in the corporate world, but I think nonprofits are becoming like that. 5 years in the C-suite is a good run.
Well, it's not only that, why it's important to keep your networks. You never know how someone can help you. Maybe you just need a referral of someone. Maybe you need to hire someone, and someone you've been networking with might know those people, right?
Yeah, that is exactly the point. And it took me so long to build this network. And there are some people on here that I would be friends with regardless. I only accidentally met on LinkedIn. So it's about building your network, but then also curating it. Who really is there a synergy with? And then cultivating it, continuing, like you were talking about, continuing to reach out to that person. How's it going? Oh, I found a new resource, whatever it is, right?
Yep.
Well, and it is a form of continuing education.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I know we could talk for a long time about all this, but we're coming up on an hour here. Any more thoughts, questions from anybody? All right.
We're good.
Sonia, if people want to get a hold of you, you've mentioned LinkedIn. Are there other ways also to connect with you?
LinkedIn is the easiest. The other is on my website. There's a contact me. It's Uplifting Nonprofits, my website.
.com, right?
.com, yes, it is .com. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. But yeah, feel free to reach out to me. I try to, I don't try, I actually do talk to people if they need, just someone to brainstorm with.
You don't have to be named James.
Right, you don't have to be named James. So I'd be glad to do that, because I was happy when people did it for me, and still do. So I'm willing to do that. Yeah.
Well, Sonia, thank you very much for being with us. It's really been a pleasure. Like I said, you are really your brand, which is uplifting.
Thank you. Thank you. I like that. The nodding is there.
So no, it's we're grateful for your time with us. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. My pleasure. And as it's 10 o'clock, it's 10:02. I'm going to step away. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. I hope I've been able to help you somewhat and give you a little more confidence in yourself and recognize that you are the magic in all of this.
Thanks for being with us. I hope you found, like I did, that Sonia is a wonderful, fun presenter with some really interesting information. So that's it for today. Thanks for joining Nonprofit Career Network, a chapter of great careers. And this is Matt Hugg wishing you a great nonprofit day.